Hey guys, it's Pace, Helium CEO, and the rest of the team is in the office working away, improving the code, improving the app. And I just wanted to do a video response to the show that Jason Stapleton had yesterday, November 20th. And he talked about Bitcoin and he talked about a few other things. Jason Stapleton is a libertarian podcaster, and he has a radio show, an internet radio show where he talks about liberty and politics, and he talks about the economy and different things that happen. Eventually, you would think as a libertarian that talks about finance, Bitcoin comes up from time to time. So he talked about Bitcoin on this episode, and he said Bitcoin is speculative. It's like the tulip mania. That was when tulip bulbs were in a speculative, hyperinflated bubble in the 17th century, 16th century, and so that bubble popped, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. He says Bitcoin is a very, very, very risky investment. It's a dangerous way to invest your money. It feels good on the way up. It gets ugly on the way down. And yeah, Bitcoin has crashed many times. It's also jumped many times, but it's crashed many times. So if you held onto it the whole time, you'd be fine. Up until now. But who knows? It could have a bigger crash in the future. And the biggest problem, he says, is that Bitcoin isn't a bad thing. He doesn't have anything against cryptocurrencies in concept, but it's dangerous because not enough people are using it to turn it into a transactional currency where you could use it where you would spend Bitcoin to buy something of real world value in terms of some physical item that you would use and need. Not enough people use it every day. Using Bitcoin in traditional exchange, in one-on-one exchange to make it worthwhile. And that its only purpose right now is for speculation. Well, I kind of find this a little bit interesting because he trades forex, or he has in the past, and different and it encourages people to know their way around that type of investing as well. And so he's turning these real world currencies into a speculative instrument. And that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it totally works. The fact is, he's right. You do need to be informed about Bitcoin and about trading, or at least you need to understand the risks if you go into it knowing what those risks are. So once he gets done talking about Bitcoin, then he moves on to talk about Helium. Now, I don't know what brought it up for him. I guess he saw some of the news that Uphold, our partner, had put out their press release, might have seen another article about it. We actually contacted his team over 6 months ago to see if we could get on his show and talk about it. But he said, come back when you have a track record. Come back when you have 12 months. And he says this on the show, too, that when you have a bigger track record, come back. It was just funny. So the first thing that happened was he misspelled helium. He said this is helium, H-E-L-E-I-U-M. I don't know how you'd pronounce that, but definitely not helium. So that was kind of funny. Next, he said that it trades in coins based on which one is most likely to appreciate in value. There's a huge problem with this. I don't know exactly what problem he sees in that. He would trade currencies based on which one's most likely to appreciate in value in Forex, and that would be fine. He says he wants to see a year of this thing running. I totally agree with him. There are a lot of discerning investors that are not going to put any money in Helium until it's been proven track record for 3 months, 6 months, a year after our launch date, which was November 1st of 2017. So that's totally fine, and I recommend people that want to be cautious wait and see, because we are growing really quickly right now, and we're changing the algorithm. Things can change. Things could be different, and we might face growing pains. We'll see. It's only November 21st, 2017. It's only been 3 weeks since our official app launch date, and so we have a long ways to go. I'll definitely come back in a year from now and see, so he can see how everything has performed. He says he wants to see a verified track record, independently verified, in order to prove they are getting enough of a return to justify the risk. Okay, cool. We are going to publish statistics, but we're also going to see users publish their own statistics, independently calculated based on their own personal returns. So we're going to give global returns. We'll probably give show the return by balloon, but take away all the personal info, so it's privacy protected. We want to push a ton of data out there so everyone can see that our algorithm is doing what it's doing. And he says if they're getting this return, why aren't they running real money? This was the first big objection that I got to something that he said. He said, if you're really making money hand over fist, why in God's name are you wasting your time building an app to help other people do it? I just thought that was such an interesting argument, which I've heard before. The idea is if we have a very successful trading algorithm, why aren't we just trading our own money and keeping all the profits to ourselves? Why would we share the idea with anybody else? This question sort of comes from a place of fear. You wouldn't want everybody to use the same trading strategy that you're using, otherwise your trading strategy wouldn't work. But we don't really feel that way. We feel that bringing attention to our type of algorithm and to cryptocurrencies will bring more people into the space. That will cause more innovation. There'll be more demand to see more change. I've got a million reasons why I have a problem with his statement, and if we have an algorithm that there should be no reason why we should build an app to let other people use it. First of all, we wouldn't really be able to do it the way that he's saying. He says, why aren't you running real money? You should be able to go to Wall Street and get some investment house to give you $10 million, $50 million, and then you guys just trade away, whatever you want to do. Build a hedge fund and be in charge of it, and just have very select investors and keep it tight and quiet and secret, and basically just keep your own profits. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We actually don't really want Wall Street to benefit a whole lot from us. We don't really want VC money. We've been bootstrapped this entire time. We started from day one 2 years ago, and just doing this in our spare time. And we got to where we are today with just a little help from our friends. And really, that's what we've been focused on. We couldn't really make it in Wall Street, even if we went there, even if we wanted to. We don't have a track record. We don't have credentials. We don't have connections. We don't have trading experience. We don't have anything that someone with a huge private equity firm or a huge investment bank would say that we qualify. We don't meet their minimum qualifications. We're not Bernie Madoff. He made a reference to that, and he said, Bernie Madoff had promised this thing where people could get 1 to 2% a month forever, and it was a Ponzi scheme. But fact is, he already had connections. He already had a platform and credentials and experience, and he already had money to start his scheme. We don't have any of that. We're starting, we started this in 1 bedroom of a 3-bedroom house, and we moved it to another bedroom of a 3-bedroom house. We're nothing right now. So we couldn't get millions and millions of dollars from a giant bank if we wanted to. And we'd like it that way. In fact, we just want to start from the ground up, building this organically, and then see where it goes. And people don't have to believe it yet. They can believe it after they see the track record of the people that did. Okay, so that's totally fine. But the big thing is, like, if this is so good, why don't you just keep it to yourself? Well, I ask, like, if a recipe is so good, why would you put it in a cookbook? Well, if a chef is so good, why would he open a restaurant? It's kind of counterintuitive if you think of it like that. If you have something that's really good, you want to share it, and we do. We want to share it because we believe other people can benefit from it. Frankly, we have this motive, which is we want to educate the world about cryptocurrencies, and we want people to be comfortable with them. And we also want to provide, sort of open people's eyes to a different form of consumer finance, a different form of banking, basically, of moving money around and leading their lives in a more automated way. That's another thing. We have a mission to promote automation. We have a mission to promote cryptocurrencies and blockchains. And so that's basically what we're going for. We're trying to break the mold and start from zero and do something completely different. He also said, so he said Bernie Madoff would show consistently 2% a month. People were throwing money at him. If you have an algorithm that can produce those returns, why on earth are you wasting your time building an app? Building an app could be a side thing after you've raised billions and billions of dollars. You could give this away for free. He's totally right there. If we did do that route, if we somehow were able to get tons of money, then we wouldn't need to charge anything for our app. Any split or any kind of revenue from our app. I sympathize with that. If we can have an app that that does everything that it needs to, and we don't need to take anything from it, that would be fine with me. If I was independently wealthy with billions and billions, that would be so cool. But the time is now. And so we have this app, we want to get it off the ground, and really there's a crunch zone here in history where cryptocurrency has a chance to make a big difference. Blockchains have a chance to make a huge difference in people's lives, and we want to be part of that. We want to participate in the community. We don't want to just hoard this little thing and keep it in the corner. And the whole cryptocurrency space is very volatile and everything, and we wanted to take advantage of that volatility and let other people do that too. I have a lot of friends, and I want them to share what I'm doing. That's pretty much it. But I would love to give this away for free. In fact, as we grow, we are going to reduce our fees in different ways. We're going to provide other opportunities for people to get boosts that are going to increase their share, decrease our fees, and I like it that way. I want everybody to be happy with the service. And I know we're going to face competition if we can prove ourselves, because when you prove yourself, then you invite criticism and you invite competition. And people see that there's value in the space. He says, Heleum is piggybacking off the allure of cryptocurrencies and saying, here, we have something that will make you money as a savings account, and we'll pay you interest, and we're going to pay a lot more interest than, say, a bank would, and they'll claim that it's safe. Heck yeah, we're piggybacking on the allure of cryptocurrencies. That's a huge trend right now. I'll shamelessly say that we're totally jumping into that space because it's hot. One thing we're not doing, though, is we're not creating our own coin to just be one more there in the space, and we're not creating this frivolous service that's already out there. We have an algorithm that's different than anything else that's out there, and we're doing this. And yeah, we don't say savings account. We say this is a long-term savings accelerator. Because we know that this isn't completely risk-free. There's definitely some risk to it. We can mitigate the risk a lot by improving the algorithm, but make it safer and improve the performance. But we can't take out all the risk. People have to understand that. But yeah, because of the way the algorithm works, it does beat holding your money in a bank. It beats holding your money in stocks, and in looking at it in certain ways, while the funds are active, they actually beat cryptocurrencies, holding cryptocurrencies sometimes. So we're going to be improving it over time, and that's what we're looking for. Now, yeah, so when we say it's safe, we that's a very nuanced word. We need to make sure people understand. There's risk in it. There's safety in the idea that even if crypto prices on the whole once they top out, there's still going to be innovation in the space, and there's going to be some volatility between them, and we take advantage of that volatility. So even if the prices are not reaching all-time highs, we can still be profitable because we keep people in the right one at the right time, okay, or at least better than just holding a basket of these cryptocurrencies, especially when they top out, whatever that point is. They generated about double what Bernie Madoff said he could generate over a 6-month period. He's referring to the fact that during the beta, which we did from February to August of 2017, we generated an average 21% for people. Now, actually, what happened is the average amount of time anybody was in the beta was about 3 months or so. So really, they made 21% in a 3-month period, so they made 7% a month, which is many more times better than what Bernie Madoff did. But fact is, he was doing this on traditional investments over a much longer time scale. I wouldn't have expected him to do really well, but he did decently. And so now, basically, so what if we get double what Bernie Madoff did? Bitcoin has skyrocketed. Ether and Litecoin have skyrocketed. To put any money in them for any period of time and not for any lengthy period of time and not expect a gain in the past year would be silly. So I think it's really weird to compare the two. But now we get into a very important point that he says. He says they're trading ridiculously small amounts of money. What sort of return could they generate if they were running $750 million instead of $750,000? Right now, we only have $750,000 in our user balances, and everything's going great right now. And he says it's always easier to create larger returns with smaller amounts of money because it's easy to get in and out of positions. When you start moving millions and tens of millions, hundreds of millions in and out of positions, the difficulty in maintaining returns becomes astronomically harder. He's totally right. There is a volume issue. We can't have transactions be too large, and we can't have total transaction volume in a certain period of time be too large. As far as, if we see the prices move and then everything in our system, all of our users happen to move from, say, Bitcoin to Ether, that would be a very, very big move, and there's a potential that the underlying exchanges couldn't support that kind of volume. The fees to execute those kinds of orders would be very high. So we need to be careful when we grow to make sure that we're taking care of that. Thankfully, what's cool is if we're growing, that means that people are accepting cryptocurrencies in general. The space is getting bigger, there are more coins out there are more exchanges that are working, and we operate on top of Uphold, and so they use multiple exchanges to execute the underlying trades. They're a full reserve, which is kind of nice. It's one of the better places for us to start out in. As a reserve, if one person moves money from Bitcoin to Litecoin, and then in the same minute someone else moves money from Litecoin to Bitcoin, they're a reserve, so that's basically washes out. Basically, they look at before both those trades and after both those trades, and their balance for their entire reserve that they keep 100% backing for is about the same. So because every single account in our system is individual, segregated, distributed, decentralized per se, so that means that sometimes one person's balloons are going out of one currency, another person's balloons are going into that currency in a short period of time. It makes it a little bit easier for Uphold to handle large volume if we grow. So yes, that's a big concern. That's something that we have to deal with over time. But I don't think it's going to be, the death of Heleum. If we get to $750 million in balances, we'll find a way to scale. Like I said, the best thing about it is if we have that kind of confidence from the public, then that means that blockchains and cryptocurrencies in general have that kind of confidence from the public, and that's going to be very good for us because we'll have the liquidity that we need to deal with those kinds of sizes. We probably won't have balloons that are $50,000 that are moving multiple times a day. It's going to be a little bit slower, a little bit smaller than that per account. So they say that we wouldn't be generating those kinds of returns in the future if people have really large accounts or if we're moving tons of volume at the same time. We'll see. We'll see. I think he could be right about that. It might be a little bit lower in the future. But we're also going to improve the algorithm. And improving the algorithmic performance, improving the amount that the user keeps by lowering the conversion fees or the number of fees that are taken, and then also decreasing our fee that we take from the user, that could help the user get a better return, even if, in general, the market's more stable and there are less returns in cryptocurrencies in general. And then if they just have to make a little bit less because there are some limits on their liquidity, that could take into place too. So that was basically his show and what he talked about. On the whole, extremely good advice for people. Be careful about what you invest in. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be diversified, but be educated. So don't just jump into Heleum without knowing anything about what it's about. But we are confident in saying if you don't know anything about cryptocurrencies, Heleum is a great place to start so that you can learn about it. You don't need to put a lot in, and then you can start seeing that it's automatically moving money into and out of these cryptocurrencies for you, and you are getting a positive result from it. So I am grateful that we got noticed by a semi-big podcast, and this host was generous enough to bring us up on his show. Now he's cautioning his users, and that's very good. It's good to be cautious, especially in a volatile space. So that's my video response. I'm not angry. I'm really happy that he mentioned us, and there's a lot to learn from what he said. We will encounter difficulties, hurdles that we need to get over as we grow. But frankly, we're excited to do this for the community and with the community and get the community support, because we don't want to do this on our own. We don't want to hide this and put it under lock and key and just keep it to ourselves. We want to share it, and because of that, we want it to get really big, and we're looking forward to crossing those hurdles and learning how to do that too. So that's all I got. And yeah, just if you haven't signed up for Heleum at this point, there is less than 1 day. There's just over 1 day left in our promotion. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be over. But you still have tons of opportunities to join Heleum and take advantage of the automation and see how it performs compared to where you're holding your money right now. So that's all I got. Thanks.